Hello, hi. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Madison. I read. I don't know. This is my January wrap-up. I'm going to talk about most of the books I read. Not all, because reasons. We'll get into it. But yeah, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Grab something cozy and let's get into it. So this month, I read maybe the most books I've ever read in a month. Ever. I read 20 books this month. I think I was able to read so much for a few reasons. One, I did read a lot of graphic novels, so that's part of it. And then the other is that this month I participated in the Storygraph January Pages Challenge, where if you read a few pages, even if you listen to an audiobook every day in January, you're entered to win a giveaway. And it's just a nice way to kind of jumpstart the year and try to form these nice, consistent reading habits. So I participated in that. So I read every day in January. And I talked about this a little bit on my Instagram, but January was a hard month. There's a lot that happened, good and bad. And I mean, that's life, right? There's never good without bad or bad without good. But because I read every day and because reading is something that I really enjoy and really brings me happiness, even on bad and really sad days, sorry if you can hear Walter eating, reading brought me a little piece of joy, even on the really hard, really sad days. And like thinking about this, what really made me think about it was my boyfriend on a bad day, aka Monday, the last Monday of January. It was a bad day. And he said, "Well, have you read today?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to feel good right now." I haven't really thought consciously about it, doing things that I know I love to boost my mood and to make myself happy. And reading every day did that for me, so I really want to take that. We're going to start just with February. If I can keep that up throughout the year, that'd be amazing. Can you believe if I could read every day for 365 days? It'd be way cool. But we're just going to start with February. So I've already read today, day 1 of 28 done. So we'll see. Anyways, let's get into the books. It's been 3 minutes and I'm just sitting here gabbing. Do what makes you happy. Do what you love. Take care of yourself. Know what makes you happy and pursue that, because that matters. And we deserve to be happy. And even if we can't be happy all the time, which I know we can't, we can find moments of happy in that. So one moment of happy for me always comes with this guy. He's here, his appearance. He's so mad at me right now. Look how cute he is. Oh. So let's start with graphic novels. I can talk about all the graphic novels I read, which is very exciting. The first few that I read at the beginning of the year. I'd checked them out from the library so many times. I don't even really remember where I found these recommendations. But the first one I read is called Passport by Sophia Glock. This is a graphic novel memoir. And this is actually a really interesting one that I read now, considering the other memoirs I've read this month that I unfortunately can't talk about right now. But this is a story about Sophia as she grows up in, I think, several different Central American countries. So she lives in Central America with her family. She moves there because of her parents' job. And you come to find out that they work for the government and they are in Central America during a time of political unrest, wouldn't you know, caused by American involvement in their government. So, very interesting to read. Illustrations are very fun. It's a very kind of subdued color palette, but very good. The next one I read in the beginning of the month was A Map to the Sun by Sloan Leong. So this is about a group of girls in California, in LA. They're in high school and they live in a poor part of LA. Their high school is not very well funded. The demographic of students there is very diverse, and the teenagers, the girls in this, really kind of have hard lives. They have hard family lives and just lots of different situations. But one of the teachers at their school starts a basketball team, a women's basketball team. And so the story follows all of these girls as they meet each other and as they play basketball together and find this kind of found family and work through these things and find these friendships. So I am absolutely just, this color palette is amazing. It's so bright. It's so vibrant. It's just so good. The story was difficult. If you like basketball, you probably enjoy this, but yeah. The next one I read beginning of this month was Jane. This is an adaptation of Jane Eyre, and it is by Aline Brosh McKenna and Ramon K. Perez. I have never read Jane Eyre, and I might need to, and from what I gathered on different book rating sites, the reason I enjoyed this one so much is probably because I haven't read Jane Eyre. So this is just an adaptation in modern life. We follow this girl Jane who has escaped foster care, I believe. Or not escaped, but she's grown out of it. She moves to the city. She's trying to start a life for herself, and she gets a job as a nanny for a little girl and uncovers things. It was very good. It's interspersed color layouts with some black and white as well. So it's very good. It's very good. It was fun. Maybe you wouldn't like it if you've read Jane Eyre, but I don't know. If you've read it, let me know. The next one I read, I don't know when I read this now, but this is Delicates by Brenna Thumler. So this is the second volume of Sheets. I love Sheets so much, and I really loved this one as well. I didn't love it as much as I love Sheets, but we have a new character that we meet, Wendell and Marjorie. They're friends. They go through, the struggles of friendship. I'm just obsessed with Brenna Thumler's art style. And I think I've said this for all of these graphic novels, but they're so good and the colors are so good. So we've got blues. We've got just the pastels that I think Brenna Thumler is maybe known for. It's just so good. And I just love Wendell so much. And there's a third one coming out. She just announced it. I cannot wait. It's called Lights. So that's very fun. These next three that I read were based off of Allie's recommendations, Allison Page's. The first one was The Tea Dragon Society. Allie talks about this like healing a part of her inner child, I think is what she says, that she didn't know needed healing. And yes, oh my gosh. I want to wallpaper my wall, my entire apartment with Kay O'Neill's art. It's just, and the idea that there's these little dragons that have little tea leaves. I think it's so funny. My head's like peeking out so I can see the camera. But it's these little dragons that, and at the end, there's like this compendium of all the different types of tea dragons. And that when you take care of them, then you're able to brew tea and you can experience other people's memories. This is really about finding something you're passionate about. It's about found family. It's about carrying on legacies, whether or not they're inherited or you've chosen them. It's just so beautiful. I'm waiting on the second and third one from the library to read, and I will be buying these at some point because they're just so good. They're so good. The next one, and this is probably my favorite graphic novel. I loved Tea Dragon Society, but this is my favorite one. Also an Allison Page's rec, Bug Boys by Laura Netzker. Oh my gosh. I went to my local bookstore yesterday and they had volume 3 of this and I almost bought it even though I don't have volume 1 or I haven't read volume 2, but oh, it's so good. So this follows Rhino Bee and Stag Bee. They're 2 little beetles. They're best friends, and it's just a collection of different comics essentially that are collected in this volume, and it's just about their friendship and the adventures they go on. And I never thought that as a newly 29-year-old lady, woman, whoever I am, I would relate to these tiny little beetles so much. There's just so many wonderful lines about friendship and about life and loss and just what it means to be alive, honestly. The illustrations are so freaking cute. I'm absolutely obsessed. Obsessed. There's a spider who's not scary. It's just so good. It's so good. So this is what I'm also 100% going to be purchasing, and I cannot wait to read the next 2. The last one is Giant Days. This is once again, collection of comics. So this is just a collection of different stories about these three friends in university, and once again, just the shenanigans they get up to. So it follows Esther, Susan, and Daisy. Esther is very pale, like goth. Susan is the aspiring doctor, very studious, and Daisy is this free-spirited, a little naive, innocent character. And just their friendship was so fun. There are some really wild stories in this, so this was just really a fun time. I will be reading the next, but this is one that I probably won't be purchasing. So those are all the graphic novels I read. Now let's talk about fiction. I have 3 books I can talk about. For the remainder of the books I read this month, there are some that I won't be sharing the titles of nor my review of them because they are HarperCollins books. And if you don't know, HarperCollins workers are currently on strike. They are unionized. Their union contract was recognized by HarperCollins, and then HarperCollins let it expire. So they have been on strike since December, I believe. It's been over 2 months. They have entered mediation with HarperCollins, so fingers crossed that they can earn and be guaranteed a fair contract and a living wage. But in support of those workers, while I have been reading different HarperCollins books, I will not be talking about them or reviewing them. So I do have 2 hard copies. I'll just show you this without showing you what they are. Hopefully one day I can talk about them and maybe make a HarperCollins video about all the books I couldn't talk about. An update that at the time of editing and posting this, HarperCollins and their union has settled on a tentative agreement that is pending union workers voting and ratifying the agreement. So, HarperCollins review video coming soon. It's amazing, and I'm so glad that these amazing people will not have to stress as much for how to live and how to survive and how to be dignified humans. So, back to the wrap-up. The other 3 print books that I have, the first is The Boyfriend Project by Farah Roshan. This is the first in a series about a group of friends and the, romance that they find. It's about Samaya, who works at a tech company. She's one of the few Black women there, and a lot of burden and responsibility falls on her shoulders for that. She has also taken advantage of quite a bit with her work. She meets a man named Daniel Collins. Little does she know he is a government agent on an undercover mission. Obviously, they fall in love. This was fun. There were parts of it I couldn't really get behind. I mean, this was just like it was like a 3.5. Middle of the road. I enjoyed it. I won't be buying it. I would say if you're into tech or spies, undercover stuff, this would be a fun one for you. But for me, it was okay. So yeah. The first book that I finished this year was the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. So this is a end of world, I believe it's science fiction. It's like science fiction fantasy about this time where the world is continually ending. There's these different seasons where there are these catastrophic events. During those events, there's kind of this reestablishment of order. There are 2 main groups of people. There are Origins, who have this ability. They're like an avatar. They're earthbenders is what they are. They have the ability to control the earth. And then there are those who do not have this power. There is an elite group of these people who don't have the power, who control the Origins. So they've really been subdued and enslaved. They have no freedom. They have no choice. So it's really tough. This is a really hard read. We follow 3 different women. One is trying to find her daughter after her husband steals her away. I don't want to give too much away, but then we follow another woman who is in training as a child to become an Origin, and then a third woman who is older in these ranks sent out on a mission. So there are 3 stories intertwine. Oh, it's just so good. The world building in this is incredible. It feels very real while also being so confusing. It feels like this could be possible, like what has happened. I read this from the library, immediately bought my own copy, as well as the 2nd and 3rd books in the trilogy, so I will be finishing the series. The next book I finished was a reread, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I read this as a buddy read with my dad. It was his first time reading it, so that was super fun. We would read different parts and then chat on the phone about them. As it was a reread, it was really fun for me to go through and see all the foreshadowing and things like that. But the premise is there are these two enchanters, these two illusionists, who pit their students against each other to see whose philosophy is strongest, correct? I don't know. But it takes place in the venue of a circus, this beautifully magical, haunting circus. And so we just follow this competition and everyone who is involved in the circus. If you could not tell, I loved this book. I mean, I already loved it, but to reread it again, it cemented itself on my favorite shelf with The Starless Sea. So I've come to realize Erin Morgenstern, she really does it for me. So please release another book, if you would. Erin, my girl. Those are the 3 print books that I can share. I also listened to 2 audiobooks that were fiction novels, but once again, those were HarperCollins productions, so I won't be talking about those today. And then I also read some nonfiction. I read Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. This is his memoir about growing up in South Africa during apartheid, being born during apartheid, which is the impetus for the title, Born a Crime. It was illegal for a Black man or woman to have sex, to conceive a child, to be together at all with a white man or woman. And so he is the product of a Swiss father and a South African mother, and so he was quite literally born a crime. I learned a lot about South African history. I learned a lot about apartheid. I really only knew the basics about this time in history, so it was really enlightening to learn that. This is about his life, but thinking about it, it's about identity, it's about race and racism. He is not Black, he's not white, he's mixed, but there's also another group in South Africa that I can't remember the name of right now. So he really never belonged anywhere. He had to carve out his own spaces and his own groups. And then it's also this idea of who has the opportunity to get out. Who has freedom? If you have freedom but can't make your own choices, is that really freedom? It was just really powerful and really profound, and I highly recommend reading this one. The next memoir I read was Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton. So this was an audiobook I listened to while I was knitting at night. This just tells his story, how did he become a child actor? It tells a lot of stories about his time on the Harry Potter set, and then also what happens after Harry Potter is done and kind of this reckoning he has to go through. So I learned a lot about him after Harry Potter that I did not know about, and I'm very thankful that he shared his story. It was very interesting, a lot of mental health struggles. I just loved the Harry Potter stories. Oh my gosh, he just has all these anecdotes about lots of different actors and actresses, and it was just, I was so happy listening to this, especially because, he reads it. So if you love Harry Potter, I cannot recommend this one enough. The next print book I read is a HarperCollins one, so here it is. Not going to tell you what it is. And then I also listened to 2 other memoirs, which were some of the best memoirs I've ever read, but they were also HarperCollins, so shan't be discussing those here today. I would love to tell you about them because they were truly so good. One of them is my favorite nonfiction of the month, but can't let you know what that is. My favorite book of the month was definitely The Fifth Season, probably followed by Bug Boys. It was my favorite graphic novel for sure, but it was such a great reading month. I'm really excited for February. My goal for February, I kind of want to try and read as many unread romance novels that I own, because again, that's one of my goals. I want to deplete my physical TBR, and it's Valentine's Day, love is in the air, yada yada. So what better time for a lovely rom-com? So if you have any romance suggestions that you think I should read in February, please let me know. Did we read any of the same books? I'd love to hear in the comments if you read any of these and loved these. What was your favorite book this January? What was your favorite, maybe fiction or nonfiction? Do you have graphic novels you think I should read? I mean, I know I said I need to deplete my physical TBR, but please let me know. Let me know. Anyways, thanks for listening. If you liked this, please consider subscribing, following along, smash that bell, ring that bell. You don't have to do it, but that would be really cool. It'd be wonderful to have you follow along on my reading. So yeah, that's it for now. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Stay cozy, stay warm, and I will talk to you next time. Bye. That's a good little thumbnail, bud. Yes, it is. Should I hold up books?